Recording in progress.
Здравствуйте! Приветствую вас на своем канале, где мы будем разбирать олимпиадные задания по английскому языку. Олимпиады дают вам большие преимущества при поступлении в ВУЗ. Это либо 100 баллов за ЕГЭ, в данном случае идет речь о перечневых олимпиадах, либо поступление в ВУЗ без вступительных экзаменов. В данном случае вам нужно выиграть или стать призером Всероссийской олимпиады школьников. В олимпиадах проверяется 5 базовых навыков. Это грамматика, аудирование, чтение, письмо. И есть один уникальный компонент – это Culture Studies, социо-культурный блок. Если грамматику, аудирование и так далее проверяют в международных экзаменах, в ЕГЭ, то социокультурный блок эксклюзивен для российских олимпиад и представляет наибольшую трудность для учеников. Давайте сегодня о нем поговорим более подробно и сразу переключимся на английский язык. So, as I said, culture studies are the most difficult component for school students because here test designers expect you to have a profound and comprehensive knowledge of English-speaking countries. Also, they kind of expect you to be omniscient, and none of us is. So here they include everything related to cuisine, politics, history, landscape, and the list goes on and on. And to give you an idea about the complexity of these tasks, let's examine Ranhigs Olympiad last year. They gave us pictures that represent something authentic and asked to name them and specify the country they're from. And you can only wonder how on earth a school student is supposed to know that this is a piece of Irish jewelry, a claddagh ring with 2 clasped hands holding a loving heart. Another example comes from Всеросс. Here we have 2 columns and we need to match phenomena with their descriptions. For example, they included the notion of the Blarney Stone. If you Google it, you'll find in the Wikipedia what it is. But without this prior research, I'm dead certain that not so many people knew what it is. And actually, this is a piece of rock that people kiss because they believe that it gives them the gift of eloquence. I'll show you how it happens. With culture studies, it's not really clear how to work out a strategy and teach you how to handle these tasks. And I suggest grouping these countless phenomena according to the region they belong to. And there are 4 regions to be considered: the UK, the United States, Australia, Ireland, but this list is non-exclusive because there are many other places on Earth where people speak English. Today, I'd like to show you a piece of my lecture dedicated to Ireland. Together, we'll run through a number of well-known facts about Irish politics, history, and literature, and we'll also do a couple of practical tasks. And let's begin with the Middle Ages. As you know, Ireland was originally populated by Celtic tribes who spoke Gaelic language. And as late as the 5th century, Christianity was introduced there through contacts with Roman Britain. Missionaries flocked to Ireland to baptize pagan locals, and one of the most famous preachers was Saint Patrick. He later became patron saint of this country. So Saint Patrick is believed to drive out all snakes out of this country. And he also used shamrock, a 3-leaves plant, to teach the doctrine of the Holy Trinity. Because just like the leaves of a shamrock, there are 3 parts to the Holy Trinity, which are 3 persons, but 1 being. So now let's have a look at a practical task where we have 3 pictures and we need to name these things and specify the country they belong to. As you probably guess, all of them are about Ireland. So in the first picture, we can see Saint Patrick, who banishes snakes because under his feet there are some. In the second picture, we have shamrock, which was supposedly used by Saint Patrick to baptize pagan locals in Ireland. And in the third picture, there is leprechaun. This is a fairy tale-ish creature from Irish folklore, and he is known for granting wishes, and also it enjoys practical jokes. So people who come across him in a forest should be very careful.
What the hell are you? I'm a leprechaun, me dear. Here.
Now we jump over to the 19th century, when Ireland was hit by the worst food crisis in its history, known as potato famine. This great hunger lasted for 7 years. It killed lots of people and made many others flee. Basically, potato was Irish staple food, and when it was destroyed by fungus-like pathogen, people had nothing to eat. Almost 2 million people emigrated to the United States, and there, inspired by American tradition of parades, they wanted to reaffirm their ethnic identity by holding St. Patrick's Day parades. At the end of the 19th century, Irish political scene was dominated by nationalists who campaigned for home rule, which was essentially independent self-government. There were 4 home rule bills, and only one of them was passed and implemented. And artists created a lot of political cartoons, both in favor and against this independent self-government. Ireland won its home rule only in 1921, after the War of Independence. И в качестве олимпиадного задания по этому блоку мы можем предложить проанализировать такую карикатуру. It would be an open-ended question where a student is supposed to give an answer to what is happening in the cartoon. So you can be very descriptive at first and just say that there are 2 people passing by a paddock and the cow is mooing, home rule, home rule. So basically your task here is to explain what message, political one, this cartoon communicates. Irish Home Rule movement rekindled interest in the traditional Celtic culture. And one of the key figures of this Irish Renaissance was William Butler Yeats, a poet who took great pride in the traditional Gaelic culture and heritage. Irish Renaissance was flourishing in Dublin during the earliest years of James Joyce, who is famous for his novel Ulysses. Joyce didn't hold Yeats' followers in high regard. He criticized them as insular and backward-looking. And why is this novel so tough read? It's because it's packed with allusions and verbal experiment. However, it chronicles just one day, an ordinary day of Leopold Bloom, who is a Dubliner. А теперь давайте посмотрим на олимпиадные задания Всеросса. Здесь нам нужно сопоставить имена и описание. So we have already established that William Butler Yeats was a poet, so a driving force behind Irish Renaissance. That's why we match his name with the slot at the bottom of the table. We also know who James Joyce was. He was the author of Ulysses. Leopold Bloom is the fictional character from this very novel. Leprechaun, a supernatural being from Irish folklore. And we haven't said anything about Cuchulainn and Charles Parnell, but these names are quite self-explanatory. So Cuchulainn, judging by the name, is someone from Irish mythology, from Irish folklore. And Parnell was an Irish nationalist, an activist who campaigned for home rule. So as you see, it's quite easy to accomplish this task with this background knowledge that we have now. Давайте посмотрим еще одно задание. Найди лишнее. Первая строка показывает нам имена писателей. Лишний здесь Hemingway. He was an American author, whereas others are British. Basically, they are Irish. Вторая строка показывает города. The extra one is Phoenix. Again, it is located in the United States. И третья строка показывает нам цветы и растения. Здесь достаточно сложно отгадать, и лишний здесь будет папоротник. Fern is the odd one out because it doesn't bloom, it doesn't blossom, it doesn't have flowers, whereas others do. And maybe you'll be surprised to learn that shamrock has flowers, and with flowers in its blooming period, it looks like that. Ставьте лайки и приглашаю вас на курс «Олимпиадный английский». Он будет состоять из 6 уроков по социо-культурному компоненту, а также мы будем делать очень много практических заданий. Они будут как тестового формата, так и открытых вопросов. То есть вам нужно будет продемонстрировать свои writing skills, где мы будем писать статьи, эссе и заметки для путеводителя. Обычно этого как раз и не хватает студентам, которые готовятся к олимпиадным заданиям, потому что весь их материал ограничен по факту демоверсиями и заданиями прошлых лет. Всех приглашаю, подписывайтесь и ставьте лайки.